name's Sherry DeCrenza, and I'm with the West Volusia Regional Chamber, and I want to thank you all for coming out today for the 2022 West Volusia Economic Forum. About a year ago, Jerry Mays asked me if we could put something on like this on this side of the county, and I thought it was great. And I know that we did have to change the date from January to now, so that kind of messed up some people's schedules. So I want to thank you all for continuing to support us and coming out today. I would like to ask everybody to stand up so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce Eric Alexander, who will be our MC for the day.
All right. Good morning, all. Look at this beautiful crowd of people. Thank you all for being here. I thought this was a great idea, and I really appreciate you all the cities participating in the county and Team Volusia. This is, we get very informative. There's a lot of things going on in this county. Every city's got something going on a little bit, and we're really anxious to hear all your presentations. I want to thank our sponsors today. Duke Energy is a presenting sponsor. We appreciate that. Of course, that Joe Hearn Events, Mr. Joe Hearn, our partner sponsor. Joe's making a mark in this area. Thank you for all the work you do, Joe. Axum Medium is here because our supporting sponsor. You can see some of his work on our website that they do for us too. Holiday Inn Express, the contributing sponsor. We appreciate that. And of course now our wonderful Halifax Health, UF Health, Deltona contributing sponsor. Appreciate that. Now we got a lot of folks here, and I'll try to get through this a little bit, but from State Representative Webster Barnaby's office, I don't believe Webb's here, is he? Didn't make it yet. But we do have Hilda, they're going to say Mr. Dave, and we all love her. And Tyler is here. No, Tyler didn't make it either. But representing the city of DeBerry, we have Sherry Simmons, who will be speaking, Director of Economic Development and Government Affairs. And Phyllis Butman is here. Vice Mayor, I don't think those right. Vice Mayor, thank you for being here. Representing the city of Deltona, our new Vice Mayor, Maritza Villa Vasquez. Commissioner Ramos is here too. Jerry Mays, our Economic Development Manager, who's been very instrumental in a lot of things here and he'll be presenting also. Representing the city of Orange City, Kelly Marks, our Vice Mayor of Orange City. Thank you, Kelly. Bill O'Connor didn't make it, but we've got Jeff Alabach, City Commissioner, District 2, Alex Trampson from District 3, Council. Martin Harper, is Martin here? No, Martin didn't make it, or the mayor, Blair. And also representing the West Volusia Tourism Advertising Authority, Georgia Turner, our Executive Director for that. Now we're going to, as you've seen, you all have a program there, I hope. We're going to allow our folks from each city, we're just going to go in alphabetical order for no other sake, to each present, and then we'll be moving on to the Team Volusia, and with Mr. John Wanamaker sitting in with the past chair of Team Volusia, and he'll be speaking on their behalf. Helga Van Eckert, we appreciate her being here from the Development Director for Volusia County. And then we get to hear from our keynote speaker, Mr. Mark Wilson, Florida Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate him coming down here from Tallahassee, being with us today. Anxious to hear from you. So let's get started. You have the mics on the table, but we are going to ask you to come up to the podium. If there's anything that y'all want to add or need to add, those microphones are there for you. If somebody else within your tribe wants to say anything. But you don't necessarily have to come up here, Sheriff, if you don't want to, but we would like for it. But at least maybe stand up and she'll have to do it from them. It'll get us, we want to get you on video too, so. Yeah, that's what I'm talking. All right, let me introduce beloved Miss Sherry Williams, or Sherry Simmons. I know that. I looked at another name at the same time. Please give a hand to Sherry Simmons. Director of Economic Development and Government Affairs, City of Mary.
Is this okay? All right. Chris? Hi. All right, there we go. Now I'm driving. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sherry Simmons, Williams, whatever pays for. We'll take that, whatever pays for. I am the Economic Development, Communications, and Government Affairs Director for the City of DeBarry, and my Vice Mayor's aide, I think, too, right? I love scheduling my electeds here. So we like saying to DeBarry that we're a quality city. We have so much going on, and I'm going to, yes, insult everyone else. I have the best mayor, the best city manager, and the best city council, and they all work very well together. But honestly, all our economic development team, we work together very well. We meet, I don't know, 2-3 times a month, I think, and we share ideas. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for us to show you everything that we're working on. So this is our vision board. DeBarry, we'd like to say we're a close-knit community. I'll just run very quickly. We have a lot of great parks. We're an A-rated school, and we are the safest city in Volusia. In fact, the sheriff frequently, if you watch our city council meetings, he comes to city council, updates us, and says we are the safest city except when I'm driving. So we're very proud of that. We do have a very low ad valorem rate, so if you own a business or residence in DeBarry, your tax savings are significant. As I said, the lowest ad valorem, we're at 2.97 mils. We're lowering our stormwater each year, but even with our higher stormwater and our ad valorem rate, we're still about 41% less than other cities in Volusia. We're a very fiscally conservative city, hence why I have 3 titles. And we have a focus on restoring our financial stability. And with this council and city manager, we have restored that strength. We have reserves, Vice Mayor, about 48% we have built back our reserves, and that's to cover our city in case of emergencies. So, on to the topic for today. In 2021, we opened 125 new businesses. We've also started a business newsletter and a business roundtable this year to help us better understand our businesses. I have a chamber background, I think you all know, and so cities are typically businesses you hear you don't like the city, so we're working with our businesses to get their feedback and how we can improve our processes. Redevelopment, for brevity, I'm just going to go through, I think, the main one that you all came to hear about today. So DeBarry is mostly built out, except for the area around our Sunrail station. Trevor, I told you I'm going to repeat what I said to you yesterday. National average, so the last thing I did when I was in DC was did a presentation in Congress about public transit. Public transit, again, these are 2016 numbers, 48% of people who use public transit are people going back and forth to work. So what does that mean? That means 52% are doing other things like engaging in economic activities. They're shopping, they're dining, they're going to museums, they're engaging in tourism. So we want to take advantage of that. Throughout the line, Sunrail has generated over $1 billion in transit-oriented projects. So it makes good sense for a city or a municipality to maximize the fact that they're the proximity to a Sunrail and redevelop its underused properties. So by activating these infill properties, we've attracted, the city of DeBarry has attracted over $200 million in just the Main Street project alone. And with the proper transit-oriented development infrastructure, such as we want to do pedestrian bicycle bridges, safer crosswalks, better traffic signaling, that number is going to continue to translate into a higher tax base and jobs. And Main Street will bring in businesses and thus more members for Sherry, while also bringing in more consumers to our city. So our master plan shows all the development around this area structured to take advantage, I'm looking at it here, structured to take advantage of the proximity to Sunrail, excuse me. You'll see in the yellow, we've created a transit-oriented development district. We're focusing on multimodal options, and that includes the Sunrail bike trails, and we just passed a golf cart ordinance. And I'm going to just break down that transit-oriented. So the junction, you may have seen if you've driven into DeBarry, you may have seen the apartments. They're in the orange, you've seen them on the road. That's just phase one. The second phase is being built right now. It's about 150 single-family homes, rear-loaded, kind of celebration-style homes. Those are being built right now. The infrastructure is going in, road infrastructure. I know folks always complain, oh, they're building without infrastructure. No, infrastructure goes in. They just don't see what happens when it comes in. The junction's also going to have mixed-use out parcels. We're hoping up top there, you'll see we're hoping for a grocery store coming in real soon. So again, folks can just walk everywhere. They have the Sunrail across the street, and then shopping and everything right there. And this is the exciting one. So this is our Main Street project. So DeBarry does not have a downtown. We're a small city, just sprang up. 1993 is when we incorporated. So we're going to change Shell Road into our Main Street. And it's going to consist of two phases. I apologize. The first phase, breaking ground at the end of this year, is live work units. And you see up top, can live or office up top, and then at the bottom will be commercial. You can have little coffee shops, little boutique shops in there, and then live upstairs or rent it out or have your office upstairs. So you can notice the streets are wide paved streets. We'll be able to close down each street for events. The second phase, which hopefully tonight my council will accept the PSA that we're getting tonight for the second part, which will be 500 apartments, again, commercial on the bottom, residential up top. And I can't tell you how exciting this is for us, because we want to bring in those small businesses, those mom and pop businesses, and provide amenities for our trail users, our residents, and again, it's a walkable community. This is the video. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So just a brief video. This is walking in from the Sunrail.
Still on her.
And imagine tables spilling out onto the sidewalks, filled with people eating, drinking. We already have, I can tell you, I have restaurants speaking to me almost every day about what they want to come in, great new ideas. I have a brewery wants to come in, a tap room, tacos and tequila kind of place, so it's going to be really exciting. And again, closing it down for community events, community-wide events here. And can I just move right on? I think I can. Okay, so that's Main Street. Again, I'm rushing through everything. So for municipal investment, it could cover many programs. I'm just going to, again, for brevity, just mention the two big ones, our stormwater infrastructure and our conservation program. So when DeBarry became a city in 1993, we inherited little or no stormwater infrastructure. This obviously is a huge hindrance to economic development, to jobs within the city. So the city invested $30 million, and we went $10 million into debt, and that's why we have that higher stormwater fee, as you saw in the chart earlier. Again, that hurts our jobs, our economic development. Further, we had substantial flooding problems, including two major problems in some neighborhoods, and they were being flooded every time it rained. So in 2019, when new leadership came on board, including my vice mayor, they quickly assessed the situation and addressed the issues through a temporary rise in the ad valorem, and that was due to the fact that we had the previous council had rolled back the year before, and so now we didn't have enough funds to cover emergencies. And so these issues are now resolved. We lowered the ad valorem back, and residents do not have to fear a rainy day. They have come, the people who used to come and scream at city council now come and are so thankful. So that was a great move on my council's part. Again, that's thanks to sound financial management. We've now restored our financial strength. The stormwater system we did get is collapsing in two remaining communities, and you can see it here. For some reason, it was built with corrugated metal pipes that have a 25-year lifespan. It's now 35, 40 years. So it takes out, when it collapses, it takes out roads, it takes out sidewalks, again, endangers people, bad for economic development. So we're rebuilding it, and in some cases, lining it. And that's a $3.6 million project. We're funding most of it, and we're seeking legislative appropriations for the remaining. And to date, we've received, as long as the governor doesn't mix it, about $1 million from the state. Now for my favorite project, I think my vice mayor's favorite project too, Riverbend South, Alexander Island. So this property is on Fort Florida Road. You can see it's at the end. It's about 1.5 miles from Sunrail. It's zoned for residential, about 4 houses an acre, and it's right on the river. It has a $3.9 million price tag. When the opportunity came to staff to, Department of Economic Protection, they came to us, they said, hey, we'd love to build a freshwater research center on the river. I said, oh yeah, come to DeBarry, we got a spot. I had no idea. So my mayor found this spot, she knew it was for sale, and I was like, well, Mayor, $3.9 million is a fifth of our budget, we can't afford it. She goes, you'll get grants. So after I stopped crying, we did apply for Florida Forever and Volusia Forever funding. It has a 2-mile berm around it. You can see it was created by the Army Corps of Engineers in the 50s when they dredged the river. Believe it or not, this is straightening out the river. So they threw all the dirt onto the island and created this beautiful berm that we want to connect into a bike trail to connect to our other trails. And let me just say, you saw that map before of all the development. We require developers, we think with a trail-first mindset in DeBarry. When their new development comes in, we require them to build trails and connecting the trails. And that's because we know it's good for the economy, ecotourism, and I know our next presenter, Mr. Mays, will talk about ecotourism as well. It's a huge driver for our development. So we're very big on connecting the trails. And here you can see, this is already there. This is 2 miles around. It'll be very easy to put a pervious topping on it, whether board walking or gravel, turn that into a good bike walking trail. And that's the view you're going to see for 2 miles as you ride around on the trail. So we're really excited about that. And it's also a good balance to our development. We're not going to develop this. There will be the Freshwater Research Center, on there, but it's green development, low impact, so very exciting. And that will be the only state-run freshwater research center and education center located right on the river. So imagine we'll be training the state's next generation of conservationists, or I always say next generation of Pat Northies, right here in Volusia to protect our water. We're going to lead the state on water protection. In fact, in a half hour, the county will hopefully be approving us to move forward on acquisition of this property through the Volusia Forever grant. So if you hear my phone go off, it's my staff texting me. So again, this is where you can build 4 homes per acre. We want to protect that. You'll have a beach in DeBarry, in Volusia County, with this property. So we're an ecotourism hub. These are all the things you can do in DeBarry, pretty much within a mile of any residence. And in 2 days, I'm going to be in St. Petersburg with my mayor and city manager to accept our Trail Town designation. We're going to be the 12th trail town in the state of Florida, following it really was a labor of love. Deltona has had their Trail Town designation, I think you said, for about 5 years. And we'd love to make Volusia the first Trail Town county. So the other cities, please talk to us. We'll be happy to help you through it because it'll be great for all of us to be trail towns here. We're the bike hub of Central Florida. The 3 major Central Florida trails connect in one spot, and that's right here in DeBarry. So we're taking advantage of that. You could get on your bike in DeBarry. You could bike to St. Petersburg. I am driving. I'm not biking. Or you could go to St. Augustine. I know, I'm a slacker. Or Titusville. So that's why we like to say in DeBarry, you can get anywhere from DeBarry pretty much. And again, here's our vision board. And I think, Chris, I'm done. Shall I advance it one more? Okay, there we go. Any questions? If anyone has any questions? No? Good, thank you.
Good, thank you, Sherry.
All right.
Sorry, can I ask one? The 1792 in front of Sunray, where the building's taking place, is there any plan to widen that at all?
So you don't want to widen it because you don't want to widen it because we don't want DeBarry to be a pass-through. You already see what happens when there's an accident.
Right.
So you don't want to widen it because we don't want people zipping through. When
I would just like to zip home.
I know. Go down Shell Road. Go Shell Road.
Okay.
Until they build there, then you're, yeah. I would, yeah. All right, I would like to thank you, Sherry Simmons. Real quick, I would like to recognize that House Representative Webster Barnaby came in, and thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Legislative aid title as well. And now I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Nick Conti from the city of DeLand.
Hi guys, good morning. Unlike some practitioners, I kept to the program. Three slides, well, 3.5, but I don't have any breakdowns of tax savings. My apologies. So it's a shameless, capitalistic presentation. So, Joe, is there some sort of special rigging device? The button, I know. Aha, awesome. Yeah, I know, you may, Miss Williams, thank you. So I'm going to get right to new business, because one of the things we talked about, and many of these things you probably have already read, so I'm just going to kind of hit on the highlights if possible. So, Cookies LLC. Let me get something out of the way quickly. I don't have any samples on me. I've not been giving them I don't have med marijuana cards on me. I haven't met anybody yet from that organization that is wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt. So, anyway, they're based out of Los Angeles, California. Basically, it's a group of venture capitalists. It's definitely not your mom and dad's medical marijuana industry anymore. Their estimated capex, they purchased the old Brunswick building, which used to house tanks and armored personnel. And now they're going to have a fully lined distribution center for medical marijuana. They're licensed and regulated, obviously, by the state of Florida. Mark and Representative Barnaby would speak a little more to that. And their estimated job count is going to be, at least phase one, around 200 to 400. Full build out, 600 jobs. And we're talking everything from botanists to chemists to, there's jobs that I didn't even know existed. So Frank and the people that do workforce, I'm going to need issue with when it comes to ag business, because we're going to be back in the ag business again. That was made all possible, by the way, by a group of partners. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Duke Energy in that project. Duke Energy made that deal happen. Thank you, Duke Energy. You guys don't get enough credit on that. So. Outcome LLC. This one's a little shameless because technically they're in unincorporated DeLand, but since they're close enough to DeLand and we've had job fairs for them at the city, I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. But due credit is due. That's Helga Van Ecker and the great team at Volusia County Economic Development. Helga, thank you very much for a great get. Another great company, they're based out of Maine, and here they are opening up an operation in DeLand. They're retrofitting an old furniture warehouse. If you've been out on 44, you would have seen it. And this is a great trade job, fabrication related, and I'm liking the fact already, they're already up to about 100. They projected, I think, around 75. They're already past that mark already, and they're just started. Very exciting. Spectre Powerboats was another kind of get, if you will, and that fairly was done by the broker himself, Mr. Steve Costa. I don't know if he's a member here, but the broker community is vital for the work that we do. Not say that the county or Team Volusia is not, but it's all together, usually all the time. And the broker kept communicating with his company. They came and saw us in 2017, and they weren't ready at that time. So a few years later, they were ready, and they moved down from Ohio, and this is a small, family-owned business. Husband and wife team, and about 2 to 3 builders. They've already partnered with Mystic Powerboats, which is also in DeLand, who kind of does their painting and all their streamlining of the business, so they're already working with other boat manufacturers in the area. I like this one a lot, again, because it was kind of a group effort. Team Volusia, John, they played a vital role in this get as well. It's a small company right now, but they've already have ambitions to grow to about 20 to 25 employees. Started with about 5, 25. I like that number. I'm gonna press a button. Okay. So quickly, and this is just stuff you guys already seen. The retail end of Orange Camp in South DeLand obviously is off the charts. If anybody knows that area well enough, they certainly see that. The one thing I wanted to note with a number of the retail that is owned, that is, as I call it, big brand name, a lot of these folks are franchisees that are local. So it isn't some guy sitting out of Atlanta. It's somebody that actually lives in this community. So a lot of times it's easy to go, oh, big brands are coming in. Well, a lot of these franchisees live here. So we try to make sure to at least make the process as easy as possible for them to get in. But I also like to mention what I call the independents that are coming in as well, because those are the ones that we hope this year they have this many employees, next year this many, and so on and so on. So we've got Electric Bike Company. I think Sherry may know a little something about Hemingway's at 442, being one of her side interests besides running the city and getting stats and stuff in DeBerry, which is also my hometown, by the way. She's also got interest in the DeLand area, which we appreciate your investment. Thank you very much, and you're growing, as always. My friends at CrossFit Envision, another family outfit, again, small independent companies. And I kind of showcased Bushcat. Now, Bushcat was from Illinois, so it's Danielle and Jeremy Knoll. They just build kit planes, K-I-T, kit planes. So they get these light sport aviation aircraft, and they basically put them together, a big model airplane, if you will. So they started in a hangar space. They needed about 10,000 to 15,000 square feet. We did not have that. Mustang Point had about 5,000 square feet, so they were able to start with themselves and a builder and an engine guy, as they call them. So there's 4 now. Their projection next year is to add another 4, and we're hoping at least in 24 months to have the 10,000 foot piece built on DeLand Airport proper, so they can hire about another 4 to 5 builders. Those are the companies that I look for as a practitioner, because they grow, there's a multiplier, each one of them, as opposed to, oh, cool, now you're gone. I mean, these are all jobs. I don't judge which job is better than another one, but for this industry, there's a specialty to it, so I like the fact that there's going to be an expandability to it as well. Kingspan. I'm almost done, I swear to God. So this one is basically an expansion. This is an existing business. Kingspan has been in DeLand for the greater part, I think, of 25 to 30 years. They are a green energy solar panel manufacturer. They're from Ireland, and they chose DeLand a number of years ago. They're building, their old headquarters is being redeveloped into what they call an energy center. And what they want to use this energy center for is basically a toolbox. So all of the things that they do, that they sell to market, whether that's rain screens or LED lighting, prismatic natural lighting, all of the things they do, they have a lot of collection items where, let's say, sunlight hits a panel and it's collected, and some of this, they call it like a net zero building. They have skyscrapers in other areas. But this is here, by the way. It's in West Volusia. But they want to make this a place where they bring other companies, international and domestic, to come see their products to try to upsell. So my interest, obviously, in this is when those companies come here is to showcase the area as well. So the fact that they're going to invest another, I think, $3 to $4 million in this CapEx growth, more jobs, and that's expected, I think, by next year. They're going to be finished up with an energy center. Helga and the county works with us a lot with this particular client, and boy, we're going to have a big showing when they open this energy center. Last but not least, okay, this was just something that is a municipal investment. As I was making a joke to Mark earlier, sometimes when you're a practitioner, you're the least popular guy in the building, because my job's business. My job's not to figure out every regulation or make people follow them if I have to, but if so, I try to expedite that process. The one thing that I am most proud of, at least in DeLand, is if you went out to the Northwest Industrial Base right now, you can only get there from 92, or ISB. So International Speedway Boulevard, you got to turn on Flightline or by the YMCA. You can go from kind of the south, because if you go all the way to back end, which is out where DeVita Labs is, their campus is out here. You can kind of see it on the map. That's where the road ends, so to speak. There's no connectivity at all. So the city of DeLand, partnered with FDOT to connect that to Highway 11. So now there's a natural north and south connectivity, which we hope obviously will help with logistics, trucking, and anything else that we need. Well, again, with the Kingspans of the world that are moving product everywhere, it certainly would be easier to catch north and then up to 95 and down or wherever roads you got to go from there. So that is my presentation this morning, and I appreciate your time. Eric, it's all yours, Mr.
I believe there's also an industrial park that's being developed out that way too, isn't there?
It's like I gave them notes beforehand. Yes, that's true. There is, sir.
And the Skinner family.
Absolutely. The private sector, correct.
We need more industrial. Thank you, Nick. All right, next up presenter, a gentleman that I've had a pleasure of working with now in separate boards and do other projects here in the city. He's brought a lot of things into this city, starting with that was very instrumental with bringing Halifax Health into our area, which started a burst, I think, in Deltona that just has been growing like a weed. Thank you, and so please welcome Mr. Jerry Mays from the city of Deltona. He's tried to retire about 5 times now, I think.
Yes, and I'm still trying to.
I don't want you to go.
Everyone enjoy the video. Over the last 4 or 5 years, Deltona has had a tremendous amount of new business growth. It comes from the new hospital, Halifax Health, the University of Florida, the Advent Health, freestanding ER, and especially Amazon. Everybody's heard about Amazon. 1.4 million square feet, that's 23 acres of a foundation, just one big pad. Right now they have 1,650 employees at Amazon. These are the things that have been recent. We now have the I-4 logistics park to the south and a little to the east across the road from North Normandy. They've announced that they are going to be doing a 1+ million square foot high cube logistics center. At this point, it's going to be a spec building, speculative. They don't have a client for it yet. So this is a huge step in Southwest Volusia, a 1 million square foot building. Secondly, one of the items we could discuss is Advanced Cardiology Surgery Center going up on Martin Luther King. In fact, you passed it this morning coming into the center. It was over on the left-hand side. Also, we have Integra Mist, spelled M-Y-S-T. This is a 2-phased Integra high-density apartment complex going in. 300 units per phase, so a total of 600 units. And that's already under construction. Well, at least they're clearing the ground for it up by the movie theater. So these are some of the big ones and some of the other important ones, because now we're starting to get, like the cardio surgery center, we're starting to get those specialty centers and doctors' offices coming into the city based off of the Halifax Health, the University of Florida, and the Advent Health freestanding ER. Deltona has always tried to have a good business retention and expansion program. This is the redevelopment that you see around cities. An example would be, there was a TD Bank down on Providence Boulevard. Now, all the banks have done consolidation and closed branches. Well, O'Reilly's bought that location, tore down the old bank, and now we're going to have an O'Reilly's Automobile Parts Service Center down in that area. So this is more growth for the city. A building was torn down and something new is going up. So we're happy with that type of thing. Family Health Source, another medical provider within the city, had a, call it 2,000 square foot facility over on the east side of the city. They wanted to expand. So recently they opened their new 24,000 square foot medical facility on Deltona Boulevard. It took up basically half of that old Winn-Dixie Plaza. Crunch Fitness is in the other side of it. So this redevelopment as part of a medical district, they offers now both adult and pediatric health care and adult and pediatric dentistry. And the pediatric side is especially exciting for us. Very glad to have it. And it's in an area that has developed as a medical district within itself. It shares the same shopping center, to call it that, with DaVita Dialysis that has a large facility there. The VA clinic, which moved from Orange City to Deltona, took 10,000 square feet. Crunch Fitness offers different types of therapy to go along with the general fitness. So this has become a medical district, one of several that we have throughout the city. When it comes to the municipal side of economic development within the city of Deltona, we have some very large projects and some that aren't as large but are still really neat. Okay, a large project would be the freshwater intake. This is going to be down at Lakeshore at the community center, what will be becoming the ecological tourism facility down there, Lakeshore Eco Park. What we're going to be doing in this project is taking fresh water from Lake Monroe, St. Johns River, pumping it several miles up to the Alexander Rib facility. Now, RIB is Rapid Infiltration Basin. So we're taking fresh water from the river, pumping it up to the RIB site, putting it, in quotes, in the ground so that it percolates down into the aquifer, and in years to come, this water will be resurfacing again at Blue Springs. A smaller project is we're putting updated street lights and solar-powered high-intensity flashing crosswalks at various locations throughout the city. Now, we've redone the street lights in the city, going over to LED. This is for safety, and so will these crossings. So this is another, what I call, neat project that the city has done. And finally, on the municipal side, a couple of weeks ago, Tom Labasso, president of Daytona State College, visited the city, made a presentation to our commission, and in that presentation he told how Daytona State College will be building, starting hopefully this year, a new building in Deltona. It's 30,500 square feet. Now, it'll have some general education for college students, okay? But the major emphasis that President Labasso was putting on it is that there will be an expansion of their current nursing program from Daytona State College Daytona campus over to this new campus. They'll have openings for up to 99 students, and this is in conjunction with, at the high schools, both Pine Ridge and Deltona High School, which have high-level health service academies, and the joint venture with Halifax Health, University of Florida, Health, the new hospital, and Advent Health, the new freestanding ER room. We will be supplying nurses to those facilities and other facilities throughout the city. Something on a slightly different note, okay, it is our tourism industry within the city. Yes, we've developed almost a double handful of nature viewing parks. We are continuing to develop a Blue Ways Trail, the Butler Chain of Lakes Blue Ways Trail, it's going to be about 25 miles long. We already have 3 landings in, but there's still more work to do on it. But the little highlight I wanted to make mention of was a team from Deltona had been invited and went to Tucson, Arizona back in February to attend the Nature Viewing and Wildlife Tourism Academy there in Tucson. It's very unusual for a city to be invited to go and present at one of these nationwide academies. Mainly you get state, Florida Wildlife Commission, you get the federal government, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, you get a couple large university, Cornell because of its birding ornithology. This type of thing, having a large small city come in and do a presentation on how can you build an ecotourism industry was very exciting, and we were pleased to be able to attend that.
Rocco, Rita, let's put this video together. They do a great job on items like this, especially when someone comes up and says, hey guys, I need a video and I need it for 4 days. You know, that type of thing. So, again, I love economic development, but my title is Economic Development and Ecological Tourism Sustainability Manager. Yeah, we have the long titles too, okay? Because that is one of my loves, is the green side of economic development and how we can make it. We have wonderful partners here in Southwest Volusia, in Deltona. I see Duke Energy, and Duke Energy in their development and economic development has been a great boon to us. Raphael with Halifax here, the new hospital, on and on and on. All kinds of things we work together, and the other city practitioners and friends, John Wanamaker, Elka. These are folks who all work together. And I was asked this morning, has Volusia County actually gotten past this green corridor, wall, whatever you want to call it, in the middle? And I said, economic developers tore that down years ago. And we did. There is no green wall between East and Western Volusia County when it comes to economic development. Yes, we all compete with each other, but we also help each other. And when someone needs something, or when I get a lead that I know will not fit in Deltona, because they have to have an airport. Well, we have airports in Volusia County, and I pass those leads on to them. And we all do this type of thing. Two of my favorite people here too, Vice Mayor Maritza, Commissioner Victor, good to see you this morning. I'll end with, if there are questions, I'll take them. If not, I'll step down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. All right, up next to speak with us and tell us about the great things happening in the city of Orange City, Miss Becky Mendez will be presenting.
They didn't tell me there was walking involved when they on this presentation.
The stairs.
Oh, look at there. Good morning, everyone. Becky Mendez, Development Services Director for the City of Orange City. My presentation is going to be much shorter than everybody else's. You know, it's really great to be part of West Volusia team. Jerry already mentioned it, but we really do work very well together. And it is a competition, but it is a friendly competition. So I'm very jealous of all the presentations that our practitioners have put together. But it's an exciting time to be in West Volusia. There's a lot going on. I think Helga's presentation will really give you an overview. These are individual cities that, again, we compete, but we're really here to support everybody. So new businesses. We had 134 new business tax receipts in 2021. That's pretty general. We didn't really see an increase in BTRs, if you will, coming out of the pandemic. 109 of those were commercial and 25 were home-based. We found a lot of, we kind of laugh, a lot of the beauty salons and home businesses during the pandemic, right? Everybody was home and they became their own stylists. And I guess people got pretty good at it because we saw a lot of rise in home beauty businesses, right? So annually we have 1,400 businesses located within Orange City. 20% of those are retail trade and 20% is medical. We've focused primarily on medical, non-residential development in Orange City. That's our grand opening of the 7-Eleven. That was a redevelopment project, a new business, but also a redevelopment project right on Rhode Island in 1792. You probably saw that Bad Dog Gun and Pawn shop that had been there for years and years and years. We were so sorry to see it go. They did relocate just right up the road, so they're still within our community, but redeveloped the 7-Eleven is going to be wildly successful with its proximity to the high school, right? Longhorn Steakhouse, the old Ruby Tuesdays, is being converted, and we got a Wingstop on Enterprise just recently. So those are our two new restaurants that have come into town. The other picture on the screen is Blue Springs Brewery. We have a community redevelopment agency in Orange City along the 1792 corridor. We have a small facade improvement grant program that the City Council and CRA funds every year. Blue Springs Brewery was one of the recipients of that. They built that front porch, drove by Saturday night, and it is jam-packed full. So pizza is great. If you haven't been, stop by. It's a great little venue. We're doing really well. The business owner is actually the River Rock Pizza that's off of 46A too, so this is his second location. Currently under construction, we have 2 medical buildings. We've got 3 more medical buildings in the pipeline that are under site plan review. These 2 are under construction. The oncology medical building on Enterprise, 26,000 square feet. It's state of the art, super cool architecture, right? It's going to be and they're installing Tesla electric car charging stations, which is even more cool. The other 15,000 square foot outpatient surgery center is also off of Enterprise, off of Wellness Avenue. And I have to put the Deltona Motorsports, because try as we might to get them to change the name. I'm happy that Kurt Dye is staying in West Volusia and just really moving on the south side of State Road 472. Try as we might, it is still the Deltona Motorsports. But a great facility that he just was bursting out the seams, wildly successful. We're so glad that he's staying here. And really a high total valuation of that building. It is top of the line as well. We have 500 multifamily units under construction right now that are coming out of the ground. We have another 500 that are in review, and you'll see that groundbreaking pretty soon. So just with these 4 projects, if you will, that's a total valuation of $65 million that's currently under construction. And a lot more will be coming our way. That picture is actually the Advent Health bed tower, which is open last year, but that's it during construction, just to be more illustrative than anything else. Redevelopment, so we have this Kmart big box retail store that was languishing for about 12 years, sitting there vacant. And so when I hear from a planning perspective, redevelopment, having vacant big box retail, the retail market is changing. So those big boxes really can't be sustainable anymore. And so what we saw was Kmart finally starting to get carved up into 3 separate tenant spaces instead of 1 big box. Conn's was the last one. It was Ollie's first, and now Conn's, and we are just announcing that the last portion of that will be coming through. It's called a pop store. It's like a Holly Law, it's craft store. So it's a good retail mix. That center, I think with the card room that came in there a few years ago, really helped revitalize that marketplace center. In that same shopping center, so this repurposing of vacant big box, it's a challenge, but it's occurring, it's happening, and it's good news for Orange City and everybody else in that marketplace. In that same marketplace is this Conviva. The change of use is really what we're seeing. Jerry mentioned the banks. You know, what's happening with it. When was the last time you had to go to a bank? You know, and we have a lot of them, and they're on important corners. And the drive-through lanes, you know, how do those get repurposed? We've seen quite a number of repurposing of old bank buildings. One is becoming a dental office. Again, the medical is primarily what we see. This Conviva, it's a senior care medical. It used to be the Goodwill thrift store. So it's converting, and the valuations and the amount of investment that's being placed into repurposing these buildings into a new use is very substantial. Municipal investment, the City Council just approved at first reading and scheduled for second reading next week their 5-year capital improvement plan. And so I'll hit some of the highlights for you. These are funded numbers. So these are projects that are in the first 1 or 2 years and are funded by multiple funding sources. The Florida Department of Transportation, Volusia County, the Department of Environmental Protection. So there's multiple agencies that are involved with making sure that these infrastructure improvement projects are accomplished. But the Orange City itself is also participating financially quite a bit to these projects. Primarily the most important improvement project is the septic to sewer, and that's really providing utility services on North 17, taking off from and expanding where we have already expanded it from the south. So from about Graves Avenue north. Right now there is no sewer service there. It hinders redevelopment of that corridor to the north and the types of uses that are willing to operate there. This Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA's project is currently under design on Industrial Drive. That's where the post office is, if anybody goes to the post office in Orange City. We have a lot of flooding issues around that area. The roadway is not in great condition, and the infrastructure, the utility infrastructure is antiquated as well. So that's $3.5 million that is currently funded out of the city budget. Water quality issues remain to be, we're in the Blue Springs Basin, so water quality issues continue to be a top priority for the City Council. Our main water plant rehabilitation is occurring now. It's under design, and we are under design for extending all of our reclaimed water to different areas primarily where the residential is going and the commercial along the Veterans Memorial Parkway, and looping that system. Reclaimed water, everybody's up against a consumptive use permit issue with the St. Johns River Water Management District on how much water we can withdraw out of the aquifer, and the best way to help preserve that natural resource is stop using potable water for irrigation. The best way to do that is to have reclaimed water facilities available. So through conservation, the city is making sure that we're protecting that natural resource. Roadway expansion, Enterprise in 1792. Everyone traveling north on Enterprise, and you have to do that weird merge before Rhode Island. High traffic accident counts. It's very confusing intersection. FDOT has funded the design and the construction of that intersection improvement, and we appreciate that. It is an unsafe intersection and will hopefully improve the traffic flow in that area. The Veterans Memorial Parkway, the Volusia County started the 5-year roadshow again, and that's really great, and we're partnering with Volusia County on expanding the Veterans Memorial Parkway corridor, which is vitally important. It's where we're seeing the majority of the growth in Orange City, up to State Road 472. Rhode Island is in the Rhode Island and Levitt is in the middle of our industrial but also residential area. So we have a mix of uses and traffic patterns that are in that area. And I don't want to hear any heavy sighs, but we are designing a roundabout in that area. Roundabouts have been proven to be the safest intersection improvement. I have a thumbs up in the back. Thank you, sir. You know, roundabouts are coming. Yes. He's shaking his head, yes. They're safe. It slows down traffic. It also keeps traffic moving instead of sitting at a red light. It avoids the very severe angle crashes. So crashes can occur in a roundabout, but get used to them, folks, because they're coming all over the place. And Volusia County has 3 under design and construction right now. So I think as we experience them more often, you all, the board, will love them just as much as I do. And so that we're under design, finished with design, we're out for construction funding, but we're also in the process of doing a feasibility study on the Harley-Strickland corridor. It's a very important corridor, very short corridor. It's a little over a mile long, but it connects Veterans Memorial Parkway with 1792, or with Enterprise. So it's a very important corridor. The hospital, the back entrance to the hospital is there. It's where a lot of our medical is going. So we're analyzing that and doing feasibility studies and making some recommendations for improvement in that corridor as well. So overall, for roadways, we have $4 million funded for these projects moving forward. Recreation, we finished the last phase of the Mill Lake Park. If none of you have gone to Mill Lake Park, it's absolutely beautiful. It's about a 0.8 mile walk around the beautiful lake. It's really very, it's spectacular as far as Orange City goes. Well, we would love to do a TOD development on 1792. We're looking at the side streets and trying to create that pedestrian improvement and experience one street off, a little bit safer and more inviting, right? So we're in the middle of a park and recreation master plan. So we finished the big recreation projects that we had in the pipeline, and now we're looking, the city council has requested we do this master plan so that we know what the next step is moving forward. The West French Avenue Trail is so much, it's closer. We will never get across the railroad tracks to connect into Blue Spring State Park, but we'll get as close as we can and are allowed. So that construction hopefully will start after July of this year. And funding of that is pending. I believe that is all I have. Again, my name is Becky Mendez. Email me at planning@ourorangecity.gov. There's also Orange City Alliance, the DeLand Chamber, helps us with our business retention. So if you have any questions, please give me a call. Thank you.
Just don't put the word roundabout in the subject matter. Thank you, Becky. All right, this next presenter, I'm very pleased to have him take the place here. This is Mr. John Wanamaker is the broker owner of Caldwell Banker Commercial AI Group, of which I am a member of and agent. And I'm really pleased to. He's been was the team the chairman for I guess 3 years for Team Volusia. 2 years. And still we are a member. And I'd like to introduce Mr. John Wanamaker.
So the good news is that, Keith and his staff, they're out traveling. The current chair could not make the event. The bad news is you got stuck with me. But one good thing is, after spending an hour on the phone with Keith, I said to him, Keith, how long is this presentation? He said, 10 minutes. I said, okay, I got it. So, start with Team Volusia. We have 80 private sector investors. We have 7 universities and colleges. We have 14 cities and the county's investors. And I would be remiss if I didn't say one of the most important investors is CareerSource Flagler Volusia, which I sit as the past chair on Robin King's board. We provide the training and things. associated with that. It's stating that the funding, 51% of our budget comes from the private sector. 49% of the budget comes from the cities and the county. And the way the budgets work is that because of the state, the city and the county, their funding can only be used for operations and salary. That's rent, salaries, things like that. The other 51% can be used for anything that we feel, that we require to bring in companies to come, hosting businesses, advertising, marketing, and the sort. The board, since the start, is primarily composed of the private sector, and recently they added 2 more positions. One is whoever's going to be the county chair will be sitting on the board, and then also somebody from the city. And there you can see everybody's smiling face. The reason why this, I think Keith gave me everybody's bio, but I'm not going to go through that. But the most important thing I could say is that I was kind of surprised when I was talking to him about this, that for many years we were understaffed. We did not have a lot of people, as few as 4 running Team Volusia. And that's a lot when you're trying to do the follow-up proposals. The practitioners can contest to that because some of them have multiple jobs within the city, so they're doing both. So just looking at the economic impact, we had 385 jobs announced in 2020. The capital investment was 154, but you look at the economic impact was 209 million. That's because of the ancillary jobs that come out of those jobs coming into the market. Last year we had 1,860 jobs, 288 million, but we had 491 million, which was a tremendous number. And it's primarily because on the manufacturing side, for every job that's created in manufacturing, it brings in 3.4 jobs on the outside market, whether it's retail, restaurants, housing, which then creates the construction workers and things like that. So it's really important that when you have a community that you're constantly growing. This is our sales funnel. And as you can see, I think the funnel is like when you're cooking, you pour all the water through it, it goes through relatively quick. But economic development is more like molasses. As you pour it in there, it takes forever to get to the bottom. So stage 1 is like the initial inquiry, and it's not necessarily the leads that come in from the state, which we do receive those, but I'd say over 60, 70% of the leads that we get are self-generated. So they're the cold calls, going to conventions and meetings, and then stage 2 is when we have an inquiry and an actual visit. Stage 3 is when we have multiple visits. 4 is negotiations, and then finally you get that little drop of molasses out for an announcement of the job. She never gave me the clicker. So this is just like an updated of our website, trying to get constantly changing more into the aviation, which we all know about that pretty much what's going on in Clark County. We're in that triangle, that they say, for aerospace. So other than that, that's it. I do want to say one other thing. Sorry. I'm trying not to be like Keith and stay up there for an hour. No, I do want to thank the economic practitioners, because I can tell you, doing business in Volusia County for 34 years on the commercial side, doing development, site selection, representing corporations, it's never been easier for me, even as a local person, to be able to sit down with somebody and say, hey, this is what the company needs, what can we do to get these folks to come here? And those guys really need a big round of applause, because they meet every other month, 14 of them.
We need that. We just include you every
Thank you. All right. That's it. Any questions?
there's a lot of, there's good discussion sometimes about Team Volusia. We've all seen a lot of growth in the east side and about getting past that curtain that Jerry alluded to. And I can speak also as a commercial practitioner that they have been very good. They've brought us a lot of folks over here to this side that have interested, some from that, and including, we had a company, a big microchip tech company for the aerospace industry looking in this side of the county. So they have been very good about bringing all of us potential folks that are going to increase the employment in our tax base. So thank you, John. Also now, for the development director for the entire county, the lovely Miss Helga Van Eckert. Please, thank you for being here.
Good morning, and thank you. Yeah, I'm Helga, and I am the county's director for economic development. I don't get to talk to you about the sexy projects that are going on, full disclosure. I get to kind of sum up the pulse of the community for you and where we are as a result of the work that's being done with amazing people who do presentations to you. So, not taking credit for it, all right? Just want you to know what's going on. But I want to echo John's comments about the amount of work that needs to be done in order to see a project happen. I mean, before the projects are even recruited, these people are setting the stage, the infrastructure, the utilities, the quality of life that all comes into economic development. And if you don't have these people working for you, you're in a heck of a lot of trouble. So I do want to make you give a round of applause because I've been with the county for 2 years now, and I've been very fortunate because I started in March of 2020, and 2 days later COVID hit. So it was important to really get to know these people and work together. So we made some great strides that way. So what I'm going to talk about first is just the pulse, but I'm going to show you part of what's happened as a pre-COVID and post-COVID, because it's really fascinating information. It is number driven though, so those of you who need to take a nap, feel free. So let's take a look at our area in general first. If you look at the population growth rate in our area of Florida, sorry, I moved too quickly. You can see this line here, this one that is orange, looks orange there, that's Volusia County. We're not moving quite as quickly as some of the other counties, but that's a good thing. We're moving at a nice solid pace. And I believe when you see 2020 to 2022, there is going to be a blip going up. I'll show you why. But it's a nice solid pace, so we're growing in a sustainable fashion. This is the breakdown of the municipalities themselves. And you can see 3 of the 4 that are here speaking today are actually above 15% growth. That doesn't mean that there's a huge number of population. So DeLand is currently at 38% growth. But we're starting at a number from 2010 of 95,000 in Deltona, where we're starting at a number of 27,000 in DeLand. So while the percent growth is considerable, the actual number of units is not you have to consider that as well. But of the 4, we've got DeLand at 38.2%, we've got Orange City at 19%, DeBerry at 15%, and Deltona at 9.8%. Again, Deltona's at 9.8 because it's starting from a much higher number to start with. So we're seeing really great growth. And when population growth comes, you see real estate growth, right? What John was telling you, the permits start to come in. We start to see the growth of the real estate industry as a whole. And if you look at this chart, now it carries from 2003 to 2021. Each one of those bars is a year. The bar is telling you the number of permits, and then the line that goes across there is telling you the value. What's interesting about this is if you look, so we've been going up when it comes to the number of permits. We're not quite where we were during the height of things, thank goodness. But we are going up in the number of permits. But look at the value of the property in there. That delta between the top of that blue line and the value compared to where we were in the past is just growing and growing, which means the value of your communities is changing. And that value is happening, that delta, that increase in value, That's happening as a result of the way that the development is being done in the community. It's being done in a sustainable fashion. It's being done with ecotourism in mind. It's being done with downtowns being developed. The things that you heard about today, there's so much more than the value of the construction. The sum of those parts is really what's raising your property values. And it's going to sustain you going forward and make Volusia County a place where people really do want to come to. Now, if you take a look at your cities individually, I broke them down to show you just in 2001, the permit activity. Orange City is taking over when it comes to commercial permits. And Becky and I actually had a conversation before here. Part of that is because multifamilies also fall under commercial. So while you've seen a good amount in Orange City of industrial and, like you said, medical growing, one of my passions and one of the things my department focuses on is business retention and expansion. And the expansions that we've seen, because I wasn't going into them today, but we've been working with a number of businesses that are expanding. We're seeing a lot of this vertical going into Orange City because they need to grow there, where they're around peers and they can find the employment base that they need. And then you look at the residential permits, the land, the valuation. Well, these numbers are millions, by the way. It's not $158. It's $158 million of residential value that we're seeing going into the land. So everybody's got activity. There's always going to be somebody who's a little more moving forward a little bit faster. But like they said, they all compete in a very collaborative fashion. So don't take this as anybody doing anything less. But with the increase of residential and the increase in permits, what that should tell you is that we've got an increase in labor force, right? And these slides are backwards, so I'm going to have to jump. The increase in labor force is there. I mean, what this slide shows you, the top line on the far end there is the current workforce that's available. The blue that's underneath, that's the employed people. And then the gold in the middle, that's our currently unemployed or in search of employment in there. We're at one of the lowest interest rates, or not interest rates, one of the lowest interest rates too, actually. But we're at one of the lowest unemployment rates that we've been in, a decade. And we're also right up there at one of the highest numbers in available workforce that we've been. And that's astronomical, but it is because of the people coming in. What's really intriguing about this, though, is when you talk to our businesses, they still can't find workforce. So what is that saying? Our existing businesses are struggling finding the employment candidates that they need. Even though our workforce is increasing, our population is increasing, everything's going up, right? Well, if nothing else from COVID, what we learned is that the economy in the area is changing. So I just pulled out 3 things. This is our employment based on major industry. And I pulled out 3 key things here just to show an example of who's back to the norm after the pandemic, right after 2020. Who's the winner and who's kind of the loser when it comes to employment base? Because what we found is the employees are still there, but they've reshuffled. So they're moving to different industries, and like Becky said, a lot of them have decided to kind of go off on their own. They've become entrepreneurial spirits. They've realized working from home works, and it's how I want to live. I don't want to go back to the office 9 to 5 if I don't have to. But if you look at this, health services, those people who have been so busy and so burnt out over the past 2 years, health services has gone down 4% in our community. They're really struggling, which is why, as Jerry said, Deltona State is increasing the nursing training because we're in such need of medical professionals in our community. Construction really didn't feel a blip because there's so much outside work going on and there was so much building going on. It just did a nice steady growth, just kind of minded its own, my business, and just kept growing and stealing employees from those that were leaving the other industries. But look at logistics. Thank you, Jerry Mays. Logistics, while the number was low, it's more than doubled in the past 2 years. Now, does Amazon have something to do with that? I don't know. Jerry, what did you say, 1,600 employees? So where did everybody go? The pandemic was an awful thing, but what we were able to do from it, and I'm only going to bring this up because I've worked with Georgia Turner for probably 10 years now, and if nothing else, I've learned from her that it doesn't matter if it's a hurricane or a mudslide, there's always a silver lining. So we're going to take the pandemic, and I'm going to tell you the silver lining. As a result of getting together with all of these wonderful practitioners and working to help our local businesses, we put together the Volusia Business Grant Program. And we were able to connect with so many businesses. We interacted with businesses that we didn't know existed. There were so many out there who didn't have business tax receipts that needed to be helped, and so many that just needed to have a voice, that were kind of under the radar, right? So by being able to engage with all of those businesses that were out there, we learned stuff. We learned things that we need to do to help fix what's going on and help these businesses get their mojo back. So we did a survey. This is where I get into the selfish promotion of the new program that we have. We did a survey of those businesses, and again, we were in contact with, 14,000 different businesses within our community. We put out over $10 million in grants to the small businesses in the community alone. And we reached out to them to talk to them, and we learned that 80% have looked for resources within the community to help them, either employment-based or financial or whatever it would be. Of those 80%, 68% were able to find what they needed. Now, those of us who are doing economic development, and probably those of you in the room who stay engaged, know that there are so many resources available in this county to help businesses. They just don't know where to find them. But 68% is, in my opinion, not a good number. As a result of that, and as a result of COVID, we had created the Volusia Business Resources website. Initially, that was put in place to put all of the information to assist businesses during the COVID issues, to find one spot that they could go where all of the data was vetted. So there was so much misinformation being put out there. We felt it was important to put everything in one place. It was also the link that got them to the business grants that were available through Volusia County. And we took that and we're using it now to respond to this survey. Volusia Business Resources has become a partnership as opposed to just a website. It's a partnership of all of your economic development practitioners within this county. It's something that has not been done before that I'm aware of in any other county. It's something I'm so proud to be part of, whether it's CareerSource, your municipalities, your SBDC, SCORE, CEO Business Alliance, Team Volusia, the universities, all of us are part of this program, and we get together, not as often as we do with the municipalities, twice a month, right? But we get together every other month. Tourism is part of our group because tourism is such a big part of economic development as well. So all of these people get together and we talk about the results of the survey. So many of you in this room may have responded to the survey that was sent out back in June. And so this has been a piece of work for quite some time. That information has been sliced and diced and moved around to really help us provide a strong foundation of what we can do for businesses going forward. What we learned was there's 3 key things that are affecting our businesses today that are going to continue to affect our businesses tomorrow. Those are awareness of the resources. As I said, 68% couldn't find what they were looking for. So they didn't know where to look is part of it, which means we're not marketing our services strongly enough. The financial needs of the businesses, they're nervous about the needs today, but they're nervous about where they're going to be tomorrow. And being focused on retention and expansion, it's very important to our department that we make sure those resources are available to help our existing businesses thrive. If nothing else, there's nothing like the customer you have, right? But it also shows businesses that are looking to come to our community. it's not a one-night stand, right? They come in, we recruit you, we wine you, we dine you, but then once you're here, we continue to do that. We continue to have your back and keep track of you. And then the last one is labor force. Our group met last week, and we were so fortunate, Robin King, who's here, president of CareerSource, educated us when it came to the labor force. And we were trying to come up with ways to help our local businesses in finding the employees that they need, but how do you produce a workforce, right? Where are the gaps? Where are the holes? Robin educated us on the participation rate being, Robin, 56, 58%? 52% participation rate in Volusia County. We need to change that. And there are people within that rate that are having difficulty, who are having difficulty finding jobs because they need training, or their background has something in it that makes a business nervous. We need to get past that. And then we talked about ways to recruit employees to our area, recruit the talent that we need, whether it's through remote work and helping our businesses understand that, or actually having them move here physically. So it's all types of creative things where we're addressing the immediate needs, like I said, as well as the ongoing needs. So I can tell you that you're going to hear a lot more about Volusia Business Resources, because we will be doing a strong marketing campaign this year. We plan to require the 3 tourism areas within our community to give us insights and educate us on how to better market what we do. It's one of the failures I feel of government, is that we really don't let people know some of the amazing things that are going on. This event is a perfect example, which is why I jumped at the opportunity to self-promote. Thank you. But I think it's important that we know what's going on in the community so that we can make a difference. And we are doing retention and expansion. You look around, you've got B-Bron expanding. Nick brought up Alcom, which was actually a lead that came to us from Nick. He had said, it's unincorporated. Alcom's actually going through their expansion now. You're right, it's 100 more employees that they're looking to bring on. B-Bron is growing. We've got such great things happening here. Amazon is always growing. We've got a second Amazon facility coming in, right? So there's great stuff happening, and you're going to hear more. We're going to make sure you hear it, because we're going to do that marketing campaign. So, thank you.
Lots of exciting things happening in West Volusia, when you say.
Eric, can we just say, before you go on, I apologize, Helga, she underplayed her role. Yes, she did. During COVID, I was transitioning to economic development. She stood up to council to get my vote.
Probably have to turn it on. No, it's on the microphone, but sorry. Go ahead, just stand up, Sherry.
Helga stood up to council. Chris, our businesses, our restaurants were suffering hardships at that time. Helga made sure, she got up, she made sure that we got money, and the money that the cities gave out came from the county. We looked like heroes, but she was the one who really helped us get it. So thank you, Helga. I still get hugs
All right, for our guest speaker today, we were very pleased to have Mark Wilson with us. Mark serves as President and Chief Executive Officer of Florida's largest and most influential business advocacy organization. Mark serves on the Board of Directors of Florida Association of Chamber Professionals, Enterprise Florida, Workforce Florida, Leadership Florida, the Florida Chamber of Commerce, the Florida Chamber Foundation, and the Council of State Chambers, as well as serving as an active member of the Florida Council of 100, the U.S. Chambers Committee of 100, and the American Chamber of Commerce Executives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Wilson, President and CEO of Florida Chamber of Commerce. We're pleased to be a part of that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
appreciate, Sherry, I appreciate the invitation to be here. I really, it means a lot, of course. I live in Tallahassee, and as I tell people, I'm there sometimes. And so when you try to run a state like Florida, we have 405 cities and 67 counties. My job is to not be in Tallahassee and to make sure I'm taking what I'm learning today to take it back to Tallahassee and try to make sure that the right things happen. One thing about Chambers of Commerce, I just want to sort of level set so we're all on the same page, and Sherry, I appreciate, again, the invitation to be here today. I have this fundamental belief that there's only one excuse for a local Chamber of Commerce. And I'm not suggesting we're all on the same page, but I want you to know where I'm coming from in my presentation. The only reason to have a local Chamber of Commerce is leadership. And what I mean by that is those really tough things that won't happen on your own, like my pastor always says, the drift is always down, right? The things that will never happen on their own unless the business community unites together, those are the things that I hope you will keep your chamber focused on. Because as I heard all of those presentations this morning, and I want to comment on each one, by the way, before I go forward, one thing I look for when I go to a community is everybody on the same page. Because oftentimes I'm the last speaker like I am today, and oftentimes I hear cities or chambers or counties get up and talk, and then I'm going, what am I going to talk about? Because we're not on the same page. Today I will tell you we're on the same page. And so congratulations to all of you. I'm not suggesting everybody loves where we're going, but I will just tell you everybody being on the same page makes a huge, huge difference. And so just to give you a quick example, right? So Sherry started off, you talked about 125 new businesses, but you also talked about getting their feedback on a regular basis. I would love to get in that loop and hear what you're hearing. A city or a county that cares enough to hear what do businesses need, what are the challenges, and then you work that into what you're doing makes a big difference. Nick talked about skilled trades and manufacturing. That is so on par with where we're going in Florida. It's not even funny. Jerry talked about logistics, distribution, medicine, health. Again, that's the Florida story. Becky talked about home-based businesses. There's a new report out, just came out this morning, actually, while we've been in here, about remote workers, and Florida ranks number 18 in the country as a place to do remote work. So that's something you'll hear a lot more about as we go forward. We also talked about infrastructure. And John, you talked about how important it is that we're all on the same page. And as I just told Helen, we're very data-driven, and she used a lot of numbers, and our numbers match. And so that's always a good thing when I'm the last speaker and our numbers are on the same page. One comment, too, no matter where I go around Florida, is I'm a pilot, and so a lot of times you think about, am I going to have a headwind today or a tailwind today? And one of the biggest headwinds we all have to acknowledge, Helga talked about the workforce crisis that we have. But I will just tell you, and I don't think it's going to last forever, we're the only chamber in the United States with an economist on staff, and so we talk all the time about what does that mean. And this inflation, this global inflation problem we have right now, for the first time since any of us have been alive, we're literally laying off workers because of supply chain issues and because of inflation. And so whether we're building things or making things, we literally are slowing down now the hiring of people because we can't get the materials that we need, or we can't get something from point A to point D. That is not going to last forever, and so just keep that in mind. That's a headwind that we're up against in Florida for sure. And then also, what I want to try to do is just quickly walk through. You just heard what I would call a very, very micro perspective of what's going on at the city level, what's going on that road, or widen this intersection. That is not the business that we're in, but thank God it's the business that you're in. What I want to try to do is I want to come out to sort of the 100,000-foot view, almost like a Google Earth view, if you will, and talk about what's going on throughout Florida. What are we trying to make happen? Because I would tell you it's the conditions. We're trying to create the conditions for your success. And we're going to count on you to execute locally what we're directionally trying to do sort of in the big region or statewide, if you will. I have bad news on the roundabout part that we talked about earlier. Here's the deal. I travel all over the world. You have to when you try to run Florida. Roundabouts, the U.S. is about the last country on the planet to accept roundabouts. It's been around for hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of years. And I will tell you, Volusia is about the last county in Florida. I travel Florida for a living. I tell the governor, he travels the state more than anybody does, but I'm probably number 2 or 3 on that list. And roundabouts are everywhere, and just get used to it. So embrace it, if you will. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Florida's future economy a little bit. Some people accuse us in our presentations of being, sounding like a futurist. A lot of what we do is we vector around 2030. So where do we think Florida's going to be in 2030, so that all of us, and again, I don't care what your politics are, so please don't hear anything I say today as a political comment. I can care less what someone's politics are. What we care about is, are we all on the same page with the outcomes that we're trying to get? We can argue about how to get there, but let's make sure we're focused on the right big rocks of third grade reading scores, and how many jobs need to be created, and how do we diversify what we're working on? How do we make sure we have the infrastructure in place? I will just tell you this, if Sherry stood up right now and said, Mark, you only have 30 seconds left. My ask of you, if you have influence of your city council, or of your county commission, or of Team Volusia, or of any chamber of commerce in the county, if you all started, or your school board, if you all started every meeting you have between now and 2030 with the same 6 or 7 metrics, right? I'm talking about all of you, same metrics, right? Here's what would happen. All of you would be trying to accomplish similar goals. It wouldn't be about meeting your city's budget. It wouldn't be about a chamber meeting its event sponsorship goal. It would be about do we know how many kids in our county can't read at third grade level? What are you doing about that? How many kids are in poverty, right? How many new business starts do we need to have? How many jobs do we need to create? And again, I heard almost every speaker today talk about great things happening from an economic development standpoint. Does the average voter in Volusia County know what drives the revenue engine? Right? Where does tax money come from? And again, I'm sorry to bring this up to such a smart audience, but we don't teach it in our schools anymore. Our kids don't know that business activity, paying someone through a job and then they go out and buy something, that's the only place tax revenue comes from. It doesn't grow on trees, it's not free. And so as business leaders, again, Democrats, MPs, Republicans, doesn't matter to me, but if we can embrace this concept that the way we generate more revenue for quality of life investments is to actually generate more business activity. And so again, I don't want to make anybody mad, but at the beginning of this, understand, if all of us started all of our meetings off between now and 2030 with the same 6 or 7 metrics, this county can so be on the same page. And it doesn't matter if I go to a Team Volusia meeting, a chamber meeting, a city council meeting, a school board meeting, United Way meeting, YMCA meeting, everybody's talking about the same 6 or 7 things. So again, just want to put that on the page to begin with. Okay. So what am I going to talk about, right? I'm going to go fast. This presentation is downloadable. Sherry will tell you where you can get it from. So I tend to go a little faster than most people like once we get started. So apologies for that. But this is the deal. Everything we know about Florida is changing. Politics, demographics, economics. I'll probably touch on each of them in the few minutes that I have. So where are we coming from? I want you to know 2 things that are vital. One, if Florida was a stock, we'd be buying all of it. And I could go around the room if we had time and say, tell me problems that Florida has. And you all know what they are. And we do have problems. Most of them are problems that New York and California and Massachusetts and Illinois wish that they had. Most of our problems are because we have 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. And now there are some that I'll show you that are made by our political leadership failing to do the right things, and that's something all of us can have a lot to say about. But for the most part, the kind of problems that we have in Florida are the kind of problems that you want to be able to solve, right? We're adding over 300,000 people a year net. California and New York are losing over 250,000 people net, right? Their model is unsustainable, and ours is something we've just all got to think about how we're going to do it. The second thing I would want to tell you is, and this is probably the closest I'll get to a political statement today, but Florida's at a crossroads. And with how fast our population is changing, there's no guarantee that what we've all experienced over the last 10, 20, 30 years is going to continue over the next 10 or 20 or 30 years, right? So like as a pilot, if we think we can just put this on autopilot, or you get in your car, you think you can put it on cruise control and just pay attention to your business or to your city, we can't.
Other states are competing against us, other countries are competing against us, and we have to keep focusing on what's our potential, which is why I love Helga's perspective on data. And if every organization would focus on what's the data, then we can get rid of all this other stuff about how do you feel things are going on in the county or in the city, and how are we actually doing based on what we would want to do. No business will ever survive if you just go by gut feel. You have to measure what matters, and you have to make decisions based on what matters. All right, a couple of big picture things. Remember I said I was going to be macro? Okay. If Florida was a country, 2 years ago, we would have been the 17th largest economy on the planet. We've grown on a relative basis during COVID. If we were a country, we would be the 15th largest economy on the planet. We're over a $1.1 trillion economy. I want everybody to be thinking about how can Florida compete with other countries? Not how can your city compete with another city, or how can Florida compete with Georgia? We're the 15th largest economy on the planet. Our goal is to be the 10th largest by 2030. That means South Korea. That's our goal. Right now we're bigger than Mexico's economy. Right now we're bigger than Saudi Arabia's economy. Translation, Florida's a big deal. So let's up our game and let's be asking how are we going to compete with other countries so that we can be bigger than South Korea by 2030. Some of these other numbers that you see down here, 3.5 million, we're going to add 3.5 million more residents by 2030 on top of the 22 million that we already have right now. I'll show you where they're going to live in just a minute, and where Volusia comes into play there. We need to create 1.62 million new jobs by 2030. I'll show you what this county needs to do, and it would be a number I would ask every city and the county and chambers and EDOs to be starting all your meetings off with. Can you imagine if everyone knew we needed to create 17,000 new jobs by 2030, and if everybody started their meeting off with that, including the school boards? It just changes the conversation about the why are we doing what we're doing. 50 million and 3 million. Florida's going to have 50 million more annual visitors per year on top of the 131 million we had in 2019. And we're going to have 3 million more drivers on our roads. Okay, so roundabouts. All right, don't worry about the busyness of this slide, but the Huizinga family sent us $1 million a few years ago to create the first in the nation scorecard, where we would have hundreds of data points for all of you to be able to go and see how are we doing as a state. What's really neat about this is in the top right corner, there's a drop-down box, the floridascorecard.org. You can look it up later or now if you're bored, and you can pull up all 67 counties. So there are hundreds of data points for all 67 counties. So when I said you can all start your meetings off with common data points, we've already done the work for you. All you got to do is pull up Volusia. Boom, it's all right there. You can decide which data points matter. I put this up here just to show you that right now in Florida, and Helga kind of made this point at the local level, I want to make this point at the state level. Right now today we have 452,000, let's call it, jobs that are open that can't find people to fill them. Right? But we only have 348,000 people looking to fill those jobs. So even if those 340,000 people had the skills and they were qualified for the open jobs, we're still over 100,000 short on the Delta. That's at the statewide level, and I'll show you what happens when we go ultra-local here in just a minute. Remember I said we're going to add 3.5 million people. You can look this up later, but here's what's interesting. 67 counties. 5 counties are going to account for more than 50% of the population over the next 10 years. Right? And if you look at Volusia, you're going to add, we believe you're going to add just under 110,000 new residents between now and 2030. You've got about a 19% growth rate. So you can download this later. In terms of where's the growth coming from, post-COVID, if you will, it's been very uneven. Some counties are way ahead of where they were. Some counties aren't back to where they were pre-COVID. Some industries are way ahead of where they were. Some industries aren't. So big numbers that you see up here. Florida lost almost 1.3 million jobs in COVID. We're one of only about 8 states that's fully recovered all of those jobs. So we live in Florida, so you might think, oh, the whole country is recovered. No, we're one of only about 8 states that actually has more jobs today than we did pre-COVID. So we've added back those nearly 1.3 million jobs, and we've added another 152,000. Now, you can see tourism and education/healthcare are the only two that aren't back to where they were. Healthcare and education will come back this year, we believe. Tourism will be back sometime mid-2023. Okay, this is a slide I show everywhere, not just because we're at the World Center of Racing. In 2019, the Florida Chamber created the Florida Chamber Safety Council. And the idea was, by 2030, as part of this goal of being 10th largest economy in the world, how could we create not just a quality of life in Florida, but how could we be the safest state in America for businesses? And so we created the Safety Council. We became the Florida chapter of the National Safety Council. And one of the first things we did is we sponsored an all-female race team, Lamborghini number 19. This was actually us racing at the 24 Hours Rolex right here down the road. And Christina Nielsen was at the wheel, hour 16 of the race. If you watched it live or on NBC, you saw we caught on fire and our car burned. So here we are on national TV with the Florida Chamber. By the way, if you can't see it, that's our Florida Chamber Safety Council sponsored that car. We had it all year long. This was the first race of the year, and we burned on national TV. And I wish I had the clip of it, because no amount of money could have created the cool brand for us that happened. Because her car's on fire, she's going down, she had just gone through the bus stop, her car's on fire, she pulls over on national TV, and the commentators are like, wow, she knows what she's doing. Look at the safety protocols that she's following. Fire extinguisher, this. She couldn't see a thing in the car because it's all smoke and fire. But she managed to safely get out and then went back and was able to extinguish the fire even before anybody else got there. So on national TV, I went from, oh no, to this is so cool. The president of the series called me about 10 minutes later and said, I'm so sorry you spent this money. And I said, John, this is like a dream come true. This is perfect on national TV. We're being talked about from a safe perspective. I show you this for a couple of reasons. Everybody thinks, COVID changed the world. And I'm not about to sit here and tell you that it didn't. But I want to let you know, in 2020, so this, the first race of the year in 2020, the season ended up getting canceled. You all know, how all this worked. Lamborghini, 3 months after this, stopped making cars and converted over to PPE. They were making ventilators and masks and everything. So had we have kept racing, we couldn't have got parts, right? But I say that to say, most all of you started 2020 having a record year. And you ended having a record year. It was a different kind of record year, right? But we learned a lot, and here's the point I want to make before I go on. So many things accelerated during COVID. I want us to get it out of our mind that COVID somehow made telehealth a brand new thing, or made reshoring jobs a brand new thing, or made manufacturing a brand new thing. These things were already in process. And what happened, again, back to my headwind, tailwind analogy, COVID was a big, gigantic tailwind behind some of these. Millions of people experienced telehealth for the first time during COVID. So I think COVID accelerated telehealth by about 10 years. Because we now have a lot of adults who've said, I don't ever want to go visit my doctor again. This telehealth thing is way better, right? I'm not saying it's better or not. I'm saying a lot of these changes. So the push to rural, right? And remember, rural in Florida is not rural in Texas or Kansas, right? You're never more than 50 miles from a big city anywhere you go in Florida. So our rural is called available land in any other state. And we've got to change our mindset around that. Manufacturing jobs, Nick, you talked about this. Manufacturing jobs are where it's at. And I'll show you why that matters. Supply chains coming back to Florida. Okay. Let me just set up a couple of key points. If you think Florida is growing, not just in people, but if it feels like there's a lot of wealth moving into Florida, it's not your imagination. In fact, there's so much wealth moving into Florida on a net basis, we measure it by the hour. Okay? Most states measure it by the year, we measure it by the hour. Let me tell you what you're looking at so you can study this chart later on. You can get your commission around or your employees around. This slide, we could spend an hour on. We just don't have time to do it. So let me show you what you're looking at. See that bottom, or the far right number, 1.3 million? Every hour of every day, 24 hours a day, nights, weekends, holidays included, that's the net number. I want you to just think about W-2 income. Okay, so that's the easiest way to explain what this wealth measurement is. Every hour of every day, Florida adds, on a net basis, 1.3 million of wealth coming into our state every hour of every day. Got that? Okay. Now, top left set of states, right? You see New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. Those are the top 5 states where, on a net basis, wealth is moving to Florida on a net basis. Bottom 5 states, you see those 5 on the bottom left? We're actually losing more wealth to those states than we're getting from those states. I want to put perspective on this. You see how Connecticut is number 5 on the states that are sending us wealth on a net basis, and you see North Carolina is number 1 where we're losing wealth to? I want to give context to this. 9 times more wealth is moving here every hour from Connecticut than we're losing to North Carolina. So you see how context matters? I don't want anybody leaving here going, did you know we're losing to North Carolina? So what? We're getting 9 times more from Connecticut, which is the 5th, right? So I want you to be thinking about that. So what does all this mean? Look at the numbers I have on the bottom right here. So how are we compared to New York? Everybody, by the way, New York is now running ads in Florida right now, if you haven't heard, to get people to leave here and go back to New York, right? The only problem with that campaign is the data, right? People are leaving New York because of their high regs and high taxes. By the way, we have more people than New York. Here, please hear this, and please share this with everybody you know today. We have more people than New York. New York's budget is twice Florida's budget. They've got a big problem, right? We're going to make it up by people moving here and being successful and generating tax revenue. That's how we're going to increase taxes. They're increasing their tax rate, which is causing people to leave, and we all know what happens. But look at those numbers. Add up the Florida versus New York numbers. About $2.1 million an hour is the delta that we're gaining on New York. Everybody always says, yeah, but Texas, isn't Texas beating Florida? Not even close. Texas adds about $363,000 net per hour. We're adding almost $1 million more an hour on a net basis. I wanted to slow down a little bit on that slide to say, I'm in Volusia County. I'm wanting to know how much of that are we capturing here? The good news is you can go to the FloridaScorecard.org and you can find out how much Volusia is gaining over $200 million a year in net income, right? You can actually go to our website and find out where is it coming from? Where are you losing money to? By the way, we can do this down to the zip code. Where is it coming from? Where is it going to? Helga and our organization, Keith's organization, they're already doing that on a regular basis. If you're not part of that conversation, find Helga and she can help you with it. You may have seen, I've gone into the media all over the country, especially throughout Florida, and basically said, hey, all of these new people who are moving to Florida, welcome to Florida. If you came from New York or California or Illinois or New Jersey or some god awful place like that, then welcome to Florida, but please help us keep Florida, Florida. Okay, and I get in a lot of trouble for saying this, especially like me, I'm from Illinois, and people are like, why are you dissing on those states? Great people come from those states. But they have a very different model. That's high regulation, high tax, and it's just something that we need to understand what we're doing and where we're going. Whoops. Okay. What about Volusia County? Remember I said you can go to the Florida Scorecard and zero in on Volusia? We're not going to do a lot of that right now, but I want you to look. This is your scorecard for Volusia, and you're going to add somewhere, we believe you're going to add about 110,000 people in the next 10 years. That means that from a jobs perspective, you need to create about 21,000 new jobs in the county between now and 2030. I wish the Deltona News Journal would put that on the front page of the newspaper once a month and would say, how's the city, the county, the chambers, the United Way, the EDO, how's everybody doing to get us to that? And by the way, our middle schoolers and high schoolers have no clue about the awesome skilled trade jobs that are available right here in the county. What are you all doing about that? I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying Once we say we need to create 21,000 new jobs between now and 2030, hopefully parents, grandparents, guidance counselors, teachers, kids, all of us, HR managers, do you know what kind of in-demand occupations and job skills we're going to have? I would have Career Source stand up at every single meeting and say, here's what's in demand and here's where people can get that information from, right? You heard Helga talk about the percentage of businesses who want support. Okay, I would just tell you, generally speaking, about 2/3 of businesses in Florida need additional training support, and they have no idea that it's available. So if your paycheck comes from the taxpayer, what I would ask you to do is, before you get the inclination to add more programs, work with your EDO and your chambers and find out, is everybody fully aware and taking advantage of the programs that we already have? If I have a concern all over Florida, we're just adding all these new things before we're making sure the ones that we already have are in place. Open jobs versus people looking, right? Helga talked about this, right? It's not your imagination, and Helga was exactly right. You've got about 8,600 people looking for jobs and only 5,000 jobs open. So you're sitting here thinking, wait, how's this possible, right? It's the world that we're living in right now. And so we'll go from there. A couple more things before I turn it back over to Sherry. Remember I talked about third grade reading? When people come up to me and they say, what's the one thing we have to get right at the business community? It's the one thing nobody wants to talk about, and it's early learning. And if you want to know why this is so difficult, when we went to term limits in Florida, a lot of people think that's a great thing. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it is or it isn't. But term limits means my time horizon is 2 years. And so if I say, what do we need to do to get our kindergartners reading at 100%? Nobody in office today is going to be in office when the kindergartner graduates high school. So it's going to have to be the business community that comes in and says this matters, right? Look at the numbers on the left here. Kindergarten readiness. 57% of our kindergartners in Florida enter kindergarten ready for kindergarten. By the way, I should have started with this. Brain science says that if you don't know how to read by the time you're in third grade, you're pretty much never going to learn. And that has nothing to do with teachers and parents. It has to do with the way the brain is made. So up until third grade, we learn how to read. After third grade, we read how to learn. We read to learn, okay? So here's your numbers. 58% of your kindergartners in this county are ready for kindergarten when they enter. It has to be 100% by 2030. Now, I don't know who's the lead in the room here, who's going to leave here today and say, here's what we're doing about all that. But I'd like to see resource and awareness put in to that area. That's the secret sauce for Florida. The Children's Movement of Florida is the lead group on this, if anybody wants to connect them. And then we created, on the third grade reading piece of this, we created the Business Alliance for Early Learning because we have to measure third grade reading, right? So 54% of Florida's third graders can read at grade level. 54% of Volusia's third graders can read at or above grade level. So 46% cannot. If you want to know how your school's doing, go to the FloridaGapMap.org and you can pull up your school and you can see how many third graders in your school are not reading at grade level. Again, I know I make people mad when I say this, but like, why is the school board okay with that? Why is the business community okay with that? I blame the business community all over Florida. We got to know these numbers. And we've got to show up and we've got to say, it's not the teacher's fault. I'm not saying it's the school board's fault. I'm saying, if we don't know that it's 54%, then nobody's waking up every day thinking about how do we get it to be 100. This is our future workforce. And it's on the business community to do something about it. Finally, let me just say a word about childhood poverty. You probably don't expect this from the president of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, and testified in Congress about this a few years back. And I will tell you, this is one of these numbers I wish was part of every single meeting that you have between now and 2030, because if you don't know it, you can't do anything about it. So Florida has about 770,000 kids in poverty. So we create 1 out of every 13 new jobs in the country, but we have 770,000 kids in poverty. It's not the kids' fault. I hate to break it to you. Right? Like, they didn't choose to be born in that zip code or in that family. We have 983 zip codes in Florida. Half of all of our kids in poverty live in 15% of our zip codes. We know where they are. We know what to do. There's no shortage of government money at the federal, state, or local level to try to help these people get by. What I testified in Congress on and what we really believe is what these people need is an opportunity at earned success. Everyone should have an equal opportunity, whether it's education, whether it's job training. And that's what we need to bring into these communities. So what I would encourage you to do, go to the gap map, the FloridaGapMap.org, and find out what's going on. You have somewhere around 28 or 30 zip codes in Volusia. And what I really want to encourage you to do, if you're interested, is map out where your house is and map out where your office is if you still go to an office, and see how many zip codes you drive through and find out how many kids are in poverty on that route. How many third graders can't read on that route, okay? Now, I put this up here just to show you, you've got a zip code, 32114, 45% of your kids are in poverty, right? Median wage, median income, $33,000. You got another zip code over here, 32713. 9% of your kids are in poverty. Median income's over 70. Do not fall into the trap of looking at county averages. Look at the neighborhood. And I'm telling you, poverty's too big for Congress, it's too big for the legislature and the governor, it's actually too big for your county commission. Poverty is neighborhood level, zip code level stuff. And what we're looking for is a business in each zip code to stand up and say, I'm gonna take ownership of my zip code. That's what we're doing all over Florida. A couple last stats. I know we're coming up on out of time. One thing we got to get right by 2030: venture capital and new business startups. Right now, Florida ranks number 7 in the country on venture capital. Be thinking about what can you do locally to attract more venture capital to the area. Our goal is to be number 3 by 2030. Let me put numbers in context for you for a second. California is number 1 on venture capital. California gets more venture capital every 13 days than Florida gets in a year. That's the scale. That's what we have to fix. We had a goal by 2030 to be number 1 in the country with new business startups. 2 months ago, we actually already caught that dog. We're number 1 in the country right now for new business startups, and my guess is you don't know that, right? Again, there's so many things in business that we don't know. You probably don't know we have the number 1 rated colleges and universities in the United States for 7 years in a row, according to the U.S. News and World Report. Go look it up. You probably don't know we have the number 1 K-12 system in the entire Southeast. Undisputed. Nobody even argues with it, except people who live in Florida. Because we're like, I didn't know that, right? These are the kinds of things we need to plaster on the front pages. Manufacturing jobs. Let me just say this. Right now, Florida has the 12th most manufacturing jobs in the United States. We need to add 200,000 manufacturing jobs in 10 years and put us ahead of Illinois. Anything you can do at every city council meeting, every county commission meeting to be asking, how are we doing on manufacturing, specifically export-related manufacturing. It's a big game changer. Let me just end on a point about, remember I said at the beginning, most of our problems in Florida are the kind of problems that other states and countries wish that they had. One I want to put on the table today is our lawsuit abuse problem in Florida. And this isn't a shot at lawyers. We have a lot of lawyers on my staff. We need lawyers in Florida, so if you're an attorney, this is not an attack on you. We have a big problem with a very small slice, and it's personal injury trial lawyer issues in Florida. When you leave here today, count how many billboards you see that are telling you to sue somebody. We have more billboards telling you to sue somebody in Florida than any country on the planet, by far. Why am I saying this? On the national ranking, Florida is 5th. We have the 5th worst legal climate on the national rankings across the country. Why does that matter? Some of you are homeowners. Some of your kids are. Some of your employees are. And you pay homeowners insurance. Okay? Let me just show you something. Okay? In case you don't like the words I'm using, look at the data. Florida has 8% of all of the homeowners insurance claims in the United States. 50 states. We have 8% of all the claims by number. We have 76% of all of the homeowners insurance lawsuits in the country. This number was just updated at the Florida Cabinet meeting last week. It's now 79%. 8% of the claims, 79% of the lawsuits. So, we have 1/3 of the world's insured hurricane risk in Florida. So you'd think your rates are going up because of the hurricane insurance risk or hail or weather. 35% of your premium goes to pay that crap. right? So at some point in time, voters are gonna say, wait, we have the second highest auto insurance rates in the country? It's not because our cars are more expensive or we have more accidents. We have homeowners insurance skyrocketing. It's not because of hurricanes. It's because of all the billboards that you see driving around. I can get you $1 million here, I can get you $1 million there. All we're asking is that we have similar access to courts that they have in Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, and other states. Heck, we would even like to be California on this, right? Big problem, and it's impacting economic development. I'm going to stop right there. Sherry, thanks so much for the invitation today. I'll stick around for a while if anybody wants to.
Thank you, Mark.
You guys, thank you so much for coming out and supporting us today. Really quick, I do want to point out that we do have our Southwest Day of the Region on the 22nd at the Zoo. And then on May 26th, it is our signature event, the Valor Awards. We do have sponsorships available. So if you would like to sponsor one of the first responders and a loved one, like by buying a table, let me know. And thank you all. Thank you, Mark Wilson, for coming all the way from Tallahassee, and all of our economic development people. Thank you.
Welcome to